deliberately prevented from being exposed to the creative and challenging ideas of such a person as Steve Biko. In the case of Steve, it did not and could not succeed, however, because his beliefs and actions were so vital, so relevant to his whole community and following, that it could not be confined in a banning order or to a prison cell. This is the stature of the man we are talking about. Who was Steve Biko? He was one of the most outstanding black leaders this country has ever produced, a person of the same quality and stature as Albert Luthuli, only more so. Young in years, yet exceptionally mature in insight and wisdom, with a sharp analytical mind which unerringly and rapidly led him to focus any discussion on the heart of an issue and to present its essential solution. A threefold message. In the first place, a message to the black community. It would be presumptuous for any white man to try and present this message. I do not believe that any white man has the right or the moral authority to convey this message to the black community. There is also no need of this. The response of the millions of blacks to Steve's vision and leadership is clear enough proof of how fully that message was understood, accepted, and gladly responded to, even if this entailed suffering, sacrifice, and death, because they knew that it was a message of liberation for themselves and for everybody else in our country. The second message is to the English-speaking white community of our country. Steve Biko is also addressing himself through his life and death to the English-speaking South African community, including the white liberals. To the growing number of conservative English-speaking people supporting the government out of fear and or self-interest, Steve, freedom by your willingness to relinquish illegitimate privilege and power, and to share such privilege and power with all the people of the land. You should participate more actively and meaningfully in a radical program of nonviolent action to bring about fundamental social and political change. Maar die derde boodskap van Steve Biko is aan die Afrikaners.
Dankie by Islands, as the other is. Meneer Kruger, toe hy daardie ampte aanvaar het, 'n man, en dit is 'n eerbare man. En nou het ons by die stadium gekom waar ons moet bestaan. Listen to the previous explanations and resuscitations of what had happened at the Congress. Is dit onbillik vir my om te vra dat die Afrikaners, soos Dr. Naudé gedoen het, dat selfs die politici, die meerderheid van die mense wat op daardie kongres aanwesig was, en daarna gehoor het wat ander verklarings meneer Kruger gee, die akademici, some of them are very astute, and it's extremely difficult to be responsible for the preservation of law and order and the overall long-term safety of the country. And so I have taken up a more or less equivocal attitude. But I can tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, since Tuesday of last week, I have become the complete unequivocal enemy of the security legislation in South Africa. Introduced and applied in South Africa is not capable of healthy, sound administration by human beings. It would need a God to do it properly. And we know now without any doubt whatsoever, Steve Biko's case has proved it, that there is nobody in the government or in the police force or in the Department of Prisons who would willingly undertake the responsibility before his Creator to apply those laws without injury and damage to the greatest possession of mankind, his personal freedom. I thank you.
Thank you very much, John.
Ladies and gentlemen, about a week ago, a young man called Steve Biko died. And we are assembled here today to protest against that the indirect cause of Steve Biko's death is Section 6 of the Terrorism Act of 1967. That iniquitous statute that destroyed habeas corpus in South Africa and rendered the individual helpless at the mercy of an all-powerful state, deprived of the most precious thing of all, due process of the law, that ancient right which originated with the Magna Carta and which has become in Western society, certainly in times of peace, the most powerful protection of the individual's liberty against the might of the state. We first lost habeas corpus in times of the Terrorism Act, killed Steve Biko. Just as Section 6 of the Terrorism Act has killed some 20 other unfortunate people during the last 18 months, and just as it has killed some 33 other unfortunate people during the 10 years that this iniquitous act has been on the statute book. I'm not interested in the inquest findings. The direct cause of death in all these cases may have been given as suicide. Suicide as a result of falling down stairwells, or jumping out of 6th-floor windows, or hanging, or an accidental death due to slipping on a piece of soap, or falling over a chair, or it may even have been given as death from natural causes. In each and every case, it is my firm conviction that had these unfortunate people not been detained under Section 6 of the Terrorism Act, either their deaths would never have taken place, or there would have been a very good chance that those deaths could have been prevented. I have to emphasize this ad nauseum because South Africans have become inured to the loss of their civil rights in this country. Become inured to the loss of the normal protection of the rule of law enjoyed by citizens in all Western countries. They're from Grahamstown, arrested, mark you, according to one of the less confused statements of the Minister of Police and Prisons, because he was breaking his banning order and was suspected of incitement to arson and in connection with riots. Steve Biko was going to be charged, said the Minister, and if that is so, why is the $64 question? Was Steve Biko detained in the first instance under Section 6 of the Terrorism Act meant for terrorists in the bush? Breaking a banning order hardly falls into the limited circumstances category mentioned by the Deputy Minister of Police in 1967. And I can list a number of laws under which Steve Biko could have been arrested for the crimes of incitement and rioting. But then, of course, he would have been held as an awaiting trial prisoner, with all the protection that that implies as far as legal advice and visits of relatives and friends are concerned. Of abusing the power that he was so misguidedly given by Parliament, when it passed Section 6 of the Terrorism Act, he has interpreted it in the most wide manner possible, and he has allowed his security police to use the mighty weapon of Section 6 in the most unbridled and unlimited way imaginable, in hundreds of cases where the demanding procedures of the normal rule of law could and should have sufficed. And prisons of gross callousness in his whole handling of the Biko tragedy. Instead of seeking a laugh at the Transvaal National Party Congress and telling those characters that Biko's death laat hom koud, he should rather have told them, in John Donne's words, that any man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind. Mr. Kruger should resign. Steve Biko is dead. Steve Biko is dead. Means that apathetic South Africans at last awake to the fact that the government is destroying our good relations abroad, our sound relations at home, and our economy at home as well. And if every one of us leaves this hall today vowing to do all that we can to restore sane government to South Africa, Steve Biko will not have died in vain.